These are a few of my favorite things. I have some things that I've recently tried in my classroom and I am loving them. And I also have some tried and true things that are still working several years after I purchased them in my classroom. Hit that like button and let's get started. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vinson and I share tips on how to run an effective and efficient classroom so you can get all the things done and still have time to teach. And a big shout out goes to several of my students who have found me here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. So this first thing I'm going to share with you today is a free tool that actually one of my coworkers shared with me. And you probably have heard about it and used it before personally, but using it with my students has been a game changer. And that is using Google Timer. If you go to Google and type in timer, you can set a timer for as many minutes as you want. And all you have to do is show your students how to use this. When I'm doing small groups and readings, we don't have reading centers or rotations. We do a must-do, may-do list. And one of the things on my students' must-do list is to read for 20 minutes. So instead of me setting a timer and making it class-wide, I made it individual because a lot of times students are pulled out during that time or they need to go to the restroom, and so they're wasting that time doing something else instead of reading. So now they have control of stopping and starting their time so that they are actually reading for 20 minutes. And so the first week of school or the second week when I introduced our must-do, may-do list, I taught my students how to go to Google, how to set up the timer, and now it just flows. When it's time to start our must-do, may-do list, they hop on, set their 20 minutes, and get reading. Let me know in the comments below, what tool or thing are you using in your classroom right now that you are just absolutely loving? I love getting new ideas, so share those with me below. Another thing I really like to use in the classroom is just my iPhone timer. I set alarms for different things that I need to remember in the classroom. I have a student that has to take an inhaler about 30 minutes before we go to recess, and we're usually at lunch at that time, and I was just forgetting every time. So I just scheduled a timer so it goes off 30 minutes before we go to recess. I can send her to the nurse, and I have used it in the past to remind myself that it's time for lunch or we need to get ready for lunch, or related arts is coming. So using my phone as a timer is a great way as well. And then I use my Apple Watch to stop it and start it. And it is just a great resource that you have right there in your pocket. So I've used LED lights in my classroom for several years now, but this year I added more and I am so glad I did. It has really just upped that level of comfort and excitement in our classroom. One of our student jobs is to change the color each day and turn the lights on and off. It allows us to have our lights off and we still have lighting in the room. It just adds a level of excitement because LED lights are popular right now. It also just adds a level of ambiance. And what I'm really looking forward to is as we're moving into the holidays, we can have different settings on the lights. Right now, lights stay on just with no movement, but as we get into the winter months and in the mornings when the sun takes a little longer to come out, we might be able to add some movement and slow movement into our lights. And LED lights are they just elevate the classroom. One of my students' jobs has always been to change the date on the board. And while I love giving them ownership of, let's be honest, student handwriting isn't always the best, and sometimes they just write really small when they write on the board. So getting these magnetic numbers has been a game changer. Now a student can change the date and everyone can see the date, it's clear, it's big enough, and there's no questioning what is today's date. One of the things I have been using recently is a clicker for my slideshows. The majority of what I use when teaching are Google Slides. And for a while it was okay just to be at the front clicking to the next slide. But for some reason, I just feel like I have been just attached to that board this year, and I just really wanted to be able to move around the classroom more while I was teaching. So I picked this up from Amazon, and what I really like about it, it is rechargeable, so I don't have to worry about batteries, which for some reason I never have when I'm in the classroom. It also has this little clip on it, so I can hook it right onto my lanyard when I need it. It has a laser pointer on it, so when I'm in the back of the room and I'm trying to point out something specific on the board, I can use that so students can see what I am talking about, and it's lightweight, and I just really enjoy using it to be able to move around the room more instead of staying right at the board. I've had a paper cutter at home for several years that I would just keep at my home office and use a lot during back to school season when I was getting ready for the beginning of the year, and then I would just use it occasionally throughout the year. I decided when I was packing up to move that it was sort of big and awkward to put in a box, so I just took it into school, and it has been there for probably about a month, and I use it more at school than I ever did at home. So it was the best investment for my classroom, even though I had invested it for home use. But I'm so glad I took it in, because now I use it all the time, a lot more than I thought I would. We have them in our workroom at school, but now I don't have to like plan to take stuff down to that workroom. I can just do it right there in the classroom. I've never really been a huge fan of the supply boxes that students buy, the little plastic ones they put all their supplies in. They fall to the floor, they drop, make a huge mess. And plus, I don't love having my students have access to their scissors and crayons all the time, because they tend to play with them and kind of destroy them. However, my grade level loves to have them, and so it's one of those compromises you have to make when you work with a team and you are working on a supply list for your students. So instead, this year, of course, they have their supply boxes. They keep their crayons and scissors in their supply box and then keep it in their cubby. And then I got these little plastic pouches that are very thin, and my students keep a glue stick, because we use glue pretty regularly when we're gluing things into our notebooks. They keep their pencils and pencil sharpener or erasers. There's a place they can keep their passes from our class store. And so these are perfect. They fit so much better on their tables and their little colorful buckets that we have on our desks. When they fall to the ground, they don't make noise. And I bought a 50 pack, and so I have some for my students this year, and I'll have plenty for my students next year. I found out about these little rubber feet from another YouTuber. She does decorating and home renovations, and so I was watching her as she was doing a bathroom makeover. So I bought them for the drawers at school, where I have several things in there that as soon as I open the door, the little containers that hold things just slide back. And so I bought them for school, and I love them. In my new apartment, the containers that I have for my makeup and bathroom things don't fit as well in the drawers as they did in my other place. So they slide all over the place. So I'm actually going to be putting those on those little containers as well, because they just keep the grip, and then when you open the drawer, they don't slide everywhere. I heard about using a number counter or clicker from Mrs. Call's Campers. Maylene shared this in a YouTube video that she did, and she has shared it on Instagram. And I have some behaviors that I was wanting to sort of track and know how often they were occurring in my classroom. And so I went ahead and bought these. I got a 3-pack, even though I'll never need it, but they didn't sell them. It was cheaper to get 3 instead of 1. So my students don't even know I'm using it, but I just hold it in my hand. And when there's shouting out or interrupting or behaviors that I really just need to keep track of for data purposes, to share with parents, or to speak with administration about, I can just keep track of every time that behavior occurs in class, and then I can document it in my behavior plans. So one of the reasons I got rid of my old rug, besides the fact that it was many years old and it was just time to go, was the fact that the corners were curling up, and students, teachers, people were just tripping on it constantly. So when I got a new rug this summer, I knew I wanted to find a way that I can make sure that those corners stick down and don't get up. And so I found these rubber grippers that you attach to the back of your rug, and then it sticks to the floor. What's wonderful about it is it's not going to leave a sticky residue. It's actually repositionable, so you can pick it up and move it if you need to. And they have worked beautifully. I haven't had any issues with the rug coming up on the end that has the most traffic. And I noticed just the other day that I didn't put it on the corners of the rug that were near the wall. And so I noticed that as students are moving things and on the carpet a little more this year, that they're starting to kind of buckle. And so I'm gonna put some more there to hold the carpet down perfectly. I love having a digital clock in my classroom. I bought this last year and it has a shorter cord to plug in, and so I ended up just putting it on a desk, and it was great, but it was just always hard to find. When other teachers came in the room, they'd kind of look around for the clock if they needed to know what time it was. So I ended up buying an extension cord to be able to plug it in above my Promethean board. And I love having it. I love the fact that when students need to know what time it is, they don't have to ask me because they're not sure how to read an analog clock. I love the fact that our schedule has the times when things are going to happen, and they can just look at the clock, see what time it is. Now, they do have clocks on their Chromebook, so it wasn't as huge a deal as it has been in years past. It really is just easier for students to manage themselves time-wise when they are able to just quickly see what time it is. I have all these items plus so many more in my Amazon storefront, and you can find a link for that below. And if you click on the video that is on your screen now, you will see my top must-haves for the classroom that I use every year, no matter what.